A billionaire's joke turned into a lesson he would never forget. Alexander Crane had built his empire on control, of people, of numbers, of outcomes. He was the kind of man who played life like a game, confident that he was always 10 steps ahead. But that night, in the echoing silence of his mansion library, a single game of chess would dismantle everything he thought he knew. He invited his maid to play. Just to mock her, he thought it would be funny. A rich man's boredom disguised as generosity. But every move she made dismantled his pride one piece at a time. He thought she was just another servant. He didn't know she'd once learned the game from a father who taught her how to see 10 moves ahead, in life and in pain. And when she whispered, "Every pawn can become a queen," the man who had everything finally understood what he'd been missing all along. "The game begins?" "Another pointless day," Alexander muttered, tossing his pen across the desk. The sound cracked through the stillness of his vast library, a cathedral of dust, old books, and forgotten trophies. Everything in it looked expensive, and nothing in it mattered. "Everyone in this house moves like they're half asleep," he grumbled. Mrs. Howard, his longtime housekeeper, stepped carefully into the room. "Dinner is ready, sir," he waved her off. "Dinner can wait. I'm bored." His cold gray eyes scanned the room, until they landed on a young woman dusting the shelves in the corner. "You," he said suddenly. "Nia, right?" She froze, turning toward him. "Yes, sir. Do you know what chess is?" She hesitated. "A game of strategy, sir?" He smirked. "Strategy? Big word for a girl who cleans tables." Mrs. Howard stifled a chuckle. Alexander gestured toward the grand marble chessboard that sat on the center table like a trophy. "Come, sit. Let's see if you can tell a pawn from a bishop." "Sir, I don't think—" "That's right," he cut in. "You don't think—" "You follow orders. Humor me." The tone in his voice wasn't cruel, but it carried that polished kind of superiority rich men wore like cologne. Slowly, Nia wiped her hands on her beige apron and crossed the room. "If you insist, sir. White or black?" "I'll take black," she said softly. He arched a brow. "Of course you will," he muttered. The butler, Charles, winced quietly nearby. Nia said nothing. Her eyes, calm and unreadable, fixed on the board as Alexander made his first move. "I was trained by the best," he said lightly. "Let's see what you've got." Nia studied the board for a moment, then mirrored his move. Steady. Deliberate. "Copying already?" he teased. "Typical." "Sometimes," she said, "the best first move is the one your opponent underestimates." Alexander looked up, mildly amused. "Is that so?" "Always, sir," he frowned and continued. 10 minutes passed, the sound of clicking chess pieces echoing in the wood-paneled room. With each move, his arrogance began to fade. Nia played with quiet precision. She didn't rush, didn't flinch when he spoke. "So, Nia," he said casually, "didn't finish school, did you?" "I finished," she said, sliding her knight forward. "Top of my class," he blinked. "Really? And yet you're dusting my shelves." "Top of my class doesn't pay hospital bills, sir." The room went still. Charles looked down. Alexander cleared his throat, suddenly uncomfortable. "I see." He moved his queen aggressively. "Your move." "That's a risky play," she noted. "You think you can predict me?" He asked. "I already did." She moved her bishop. "Check." He froze. "Excuse me?" "Your king's in danger, sir." His jaw tightened. "Beginner's luck." "Maybe," she said with a quiet smile. He knocked over a pawn in irritation. "Who taught you this?" "My father," she said softly. "He taught chess at the community center before he passed." Alexander looked at her hands, steady, confident, not the hands of someone who'd only cleaned floors. "What happened to him?" She moved another piece. "Life happened. He lost his job when the center closed. We lost everything after that." He frowned. "And you ended up here?" "Yes, sir," she said. "But even here I still play." "Not with boards, with choices." He tilted his head. "You speak as if every move in life has meaning." "It does," she said quietly. "Every word, every silence, every look. That's all chess, sir. He studied her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. You're strange. Maybe I just see things other people overlook. Like what? Like the fact that you're about to lose your rook. He looked down sharply. She was right, his lips pressed into a thin line. Well, lucky guess. No, sir, she replied gently. I just watched where your eyes went before you moved. He blinked, stunned. It wasn't arrogance that cornered him this time. It was truth. Charles! He barked suddenly. Leave us! When the doors closed, silence filled the room. You think you can beat me? He asked. It's not about beating you, she said. It's about understanding how you play. He moved another piece sharply. Then understand this. I don't lose. Nia studied the board, then lifted her gaze. Everyone loses when they play alone. The words hit harder than he expected. He watched her next move, smooth, confident, deliberate. Check again, she said. He stared at his king, trapped. The mighty billionaire undone by a maid's calm hands? How? How did you see that coming? I've seen this pattern before, she said softly. In people? He asked. Yes, powerful men who forget that every pawn can become a queen. The words lingered like quiet thunder. He sat back, the sting of realization cutting deeper than any loss he'd ever felt. It's your move, sir. He didn't move. Couldn't. The silence stretched, heavy and final. You're not what I expected, he said finally. No one ever is, she replied kindly. When she whispered check one last time, Alexander Crane, the man who had everything, realized he'd just met someone he couldn't buy or beat. Scene 2. The offer. The next morning, the library was still. Sunlight spilled across the board. The pieces were frozen where they had been left. His king cornered. Her queen standing tall. For the first time in his life, Alexander Crane hadn't finished a game. He sat there for nearly an hour, staring at those pieces, replaying every word she'd said. Every pawn can become a queen. When Charles entered with his morning coffee, Alexander didn't look up. Find her, he said abruptly. Nia Brooks. Bring her back to the library. An hour later, Nia stood in the doorway, uncertain. You wanted to see me, sir? He gestured toward the chair across from him. Sit. If this is about last night. It is, he interrupted. I don't lose easily, Miss Brooks. A faint smile touched her lips. It wasn't about winning, sir. Then what was it about? Perspective, she said simply. You like control. I like patterns. You play to dominate. I play to understand, he leaned forward. You talk like a philosopher, not a maid. Maybe because I had to learn life like a game, she said quietly. One wrong move and you lose everything. For the first time, he didn't mock her. Tell me, he said softly. How did you become this good? My father taught me, she said. He used to say chess wasn't about the board. It was about people. He taught you well, Alexander murmured. You see moves before they happen. It's just observation. Observation, he said, is strategy. He straightened his tie. I want you to work for me. Not as a maid. As a strategist at Crane Enterprises? She blinked. A strategist? Sir, I don't know anything about companies. He smiled faintly. Neither did half the men who work for me. They just pretend better than most. Mr. Crane, she said carefully, I'm a housemaid. I don't belong in your meetings. He met her gaze. You think last night was just a game? You read my moves before I made them. You saw my mistakes before I did. That's strategy. I'll hire tutors, trainers, and whatever it takes. You have what money can't buy, instinct. People like me don't get chances like that, she said quietly. They get used, not trusted. Then let me be the first to change that, he replied. You showed me I'm not as smart as I thought. You weren't supposed to feel bad, she said. You were supposed to learn. I did. Lesson 1, respect doesn't come from money. It comes from merit, she hesitated. If I say yes and I fail, and then you fail with me, he said without pause. But I'd rather fail beside a mind like yours than succeed with cowards. Her lips curved into a small, uncertain smile. You really mean that? He grinned. I don't play games. Scene 3, The transformation weeks passed. Nia's world turned upside down. Trainers came to her small apartment. Finance, negotiation, analytics, subjects she'd only heard whispered in passing. She studied late into the night, her eyes burning from exhaustion but alive with purpose. Alexander checked on her progress quietly. Never out of pity but out of pride. When she entered her first boardroom, the laughter was audible. "A maid-turned-strategist?" someone muttered. "Is this a joke?" Alexander's sharp look cut the room cold. "She's here because she earned it," he said, and within weeks, Nia proved him right. In a multi-million-dollar deal every senior executive had signed off on. She spotted a flaw. A single line in a contract that would have cost the company millions. Her correction saved Crane Enterprises from disaster. After the meeting, Alexander stopped her in the hallway. "Do you realize what you just did?" "I corrected a mistake," she said plainly. "You saved my company," he replied. "That's more than anyone else in that room could do," she smiled. "You gave me the chance, sir. I only used it." "Then use it again," he said, and again. "I want you by my side at every negotiation." Scene 4, the final match months later. The mansion's library looked the same. Warm light, endless books, the same chessboard between them. But everything else had changed. Nia wasn't wearing an apron anymore. She sat across the table in a cream blouse and blazer, her posture confident, her gaze calm. Alexander, still in his navy suit, watched her move the first piece. "You've improved," he said. She smiled. "You've learned to listen," he chuckled softly. "Touché." They played in silence, the room filled with the quiet rhythm of strategy. Two minds perfectly balanced. Then Nia looked up, her eyes bright. "Checkmate." He stared at the board, trapped again. But this time he laughed. "You win again." "It's not about winning," she said softly. "It's about who you become when you stop underestimating others." He nodded, humbled. "And who did I become?" "A better player," she said. "A better man." He leaned back, smiling. "And you, Miss Brooks?" She smiled. "Still a maid at heart. I just clean messes on a bigger board now." He laughed. The sound light and genuine. The room fell quiet again. No arrogance, no titles. Just two equals across 64 squares, and somewhere between power and humility, between a maid's patience and a billionaire's pride, the game finally found its meaning. He had laughed when she sat at his chessboard. He stopped laughing when she said, "Checkmate." A maid's quiet brilliance had changed not only a billionaire's company, but his world and his heart.